The Soviet Doghead Experiment.
Imagine a world where death isn't the end, but a challenge to be conquered. This vision drove some of the most audacious experiments in human history, none more chilling or thought-provoking than the Soviet Doghead Experiment. Conducted in the 1940s by the Soviet scientist Sergei Brukhonenko, this groundbreaking research sought to explore whether life could be sustained outside the body. It is a tale of innovation, ethical controversy, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. The historical context. The mid-20th century was a time of rapid scientific advancement, with the Soviet Union at the forefront of bold and often controversial research. In the realm of medicine and technology, the quest to extend life and explore new possibilities for human survival was an obsession for many researchers. Sergei Brukhonenko, a pioneering Soviet biologist and physician, was part of this wave of innovation. His invention, the autojector, was a primitive heart-lung machine designed to maintain blood circulation and oxygenation outside the body, essentially keeping a body's vital functions going without a functional heart and lungs. Brukhonenko's ambitious goal was to test the limits of this device and of life itself. His aim wasn't merely to resuscitate, but to challenge the very nature of death. At the time, the Soviet Union was pursuing a variety of radical experiments, some aimed at improving medical knowledge, others driven by ideological fervor. With the backdrop of Cold War tensions and a race for scientific supremacy, Brukhonenko's experiments were part of an environment that pushed boundaries, sometimes with little regard for the consequences. This context would set the stage for one of the most controversial and ethically challenging experiments in the history of science. The experiment unfolds. In a laboratory filled with tension, curiosity, and ambition, the experiment began with a living dog. The animal was carefully prepared for the procedure, and under highly controlled conditions, the dog's head was surgically separated from its body. The goal was not just to sever the head, but to see if vital life functions could be sustained without the body. This shocking and brutal procedure would push the very limits of medical science. The severed head was then immediately connected to Brukhonenko's autojector, which pumped oxygenated blood through the veins of the head. The device essentially acted as an artificial circulatory system, taking over the roles of the heart and lungs. The machine provided oxygen and nutrients to the brain, keeping it alive independently of the body. This was the crucial test. Could the brain function outside the body? Could consciousness, awareness, or even reflexive responses be maintained? At first, the scene was eerily still. But then, something remarkable happened. Signs of life began to emerge. The dog's eyes, which had been wide open, began to blink. The light that was shone into its pupils caused them to contract, a clear indication that the head could still see. When researchers struck a table near the head, it responded by turning toward the sound, displaying signs of hearing and possibly even recognition of its surroundings. Perhaps the most astonishing moment of the experiment occurred when food was presented to the severed head. The dog's lips twitched and then, remarkably, it licked its lips as though it was anticipating the food. This was not some random spasm or reflexive twitch. These were coordinated, voluntary responses, suggesting that the brain was still active and capable of responding to stimuli in a way that indicated a level of awareness, however minimal. This experiment challenged our traditional understanding of death. If a severed head, detached from its body, could exhibit signs of consciousness or awareness, what did that mean for our understanding of life and death? Could the line between the two be blurred, and what exactly made something alive in the first place? Significance, the Soviet doghead experiment faced immediate and intense ethical backlash. Animal rights activists, ethicists, and many within the broader scientific community condemned the procedure as cruel and inhumane. The question many raised was simple. Was it justifiable to subject a living creature to such an invasive and horrifying experiment, even in the name of progress? The concept of progress itself became a subject of heated debate. How far should scientists go in the pursuit of knowledge? Is it acceptable to subject animals, sentient beings that feel pain and distress, to such grotesque procedures for the sake of scientific advancement? Furthermore, the experiment also posed deeper philosophical questions. If a head could be kept alive and responsive, what does that mean for concepts like consciousness, identity, and personhood? Could this research eventually be applied to humans? And if so, at what cost? These questions remained unresolved then, and they continue to linger in discussions of modern-day medical ethics, particularly in fields such as organ donation, life support, and even cloning. The legacy of the experiment. Decades later, the Soviet doghead experiment remains one of the most infamous and thought-provoking studies in the history of science. While the experiment itself was conducted in secrecy and the ethical debates it sparked were hushed during the Soviet era, the research still left a profound mark on scientific and medical progress. Brukhonenko's autojector, the machine that made the experiment possible, was displayed at scientific exhibitions and museums, solidifying its place as a milestone in medical technology. The experiment's findings indirectly contributed to the development of modern life support machines and techniques that save countless lives today, such as artificial hearts and advanced resuscitation procedures. It was clear that Brukhonenko's work opened new doors to the future of medicine. However, the legacy of the experiment also serves as a cautionary tale about the moral limits of scientific exploration. The ethical questions it raised remain relevant today. We are still grappling with the implications of emerging technologies in medicine, including organ transplantation, genetic engineering, and the possibility of extending human life indefinitely. The Soviet doghead experiment reminds us that as we push the boundaries of what is possible, we must also carefully consider the cost of such knowledge. A final reflection. The Soviet doghead experiment forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the pursuit of knowledge. It challenges us to consider the lengths we are willing to go to defy death and extend life. While the methods of Brukhonenko's experiment may be seen as barbaric by modern standards, the questions it raises are still profoundly relevant today. Could we one day achieve the ability to sustain life in ways we once thought impossible? If so, what sacrifices must we make in the process? It is a timeless ethical dilemma. How far is too far in the pursuit of scientific knowledge? Does the potential for progress justify the means, or are there boundaries that should never be crossed? As we continue to explore the frontiers of life and death, this question will likely remain at the heart of medical and philosophical discourse for years to come. What do you think?